Okay. So today we're going to review from last week. Then we're going to, Then we're going to talk about the characteristic of Ahankara of lacks awareness. And then we're going to talk about 11 signs of a person who lacks awareness. And then we're going to talk about how to deal with someone who lacks self-awareness. Okay? So last week we talked about competitive, that characteristic of competitive, right? And the definition of competitive is wanting very much to win or to be more successful and better than other people. Remember that from last week? And then we were talking about why do we compete? To make others feel inferior. So it's always that same thing, you know? We want to be like this. So if somebody starts inching up to us, we want to compete to put them back down, you know? And also we want to compete because we have low self-esteem, so it's a very quick way to feel up again. And so that's basically it, you know? It's not much more than that. And then we talked about 10 signs a friend is secretly competing with you. So one is that they have no empathy for your misfortune. They copy you. That's another thing they might do. They don't celebrate your successes. They downplay your accomplishments. They try to one-up you. They boast about themselves to you. They attempt to sabotage your success. You see this friend tripping her friend walking by. Maybe she's about to go do something, you know, and she's getting tripped right on the way. So that's sabotaging. That's an obvious way, but there's many, many subtle ways that people do it. They dwell on the negative aspects of your life. They highlight the negative instead of celebrating the positive things going on for you. And they discredit you in front of others. They put you down in front of others. And if you had parents who did that, you actually think it's kind of normal. You actually don't realize that it's something, you know, negative. So when that means if your partner does it or if other people do it in your adult life, you're like, they didn't discredit me. No, they didn't put me down, you know, because you're so used to it. It's like the air that you breathe. You wouldn't notice there's something different about that, you know. So that's why sometimes it's hard in therapy to realize those things. To realize if you're saying, no, actually that person was discrediting you. That person was actually putting you down. Really? I don't see that. I don't see that at all, you know. So a lot of these things, we might not actually see them either that we're doing it to somebody or somebody's doing it to us unless it's very blatant, because we might have a desensitivity to it. Because it was been done our whole life to us. So look at our checklist, you guys. We've done so many. Right? We've done criticize others, praises self, insensitive, competitive, loves, hates, and now today lacks awareness. So you're getting a good in-depth look at the Ahankara now, class 8. Okay, lacks awareness. So what is self-awareness? The ability to tune into your own body, your own feelings, your own thoughts, and your own actions. So that's part one of it. And some people may be very good at that piece of it. They're like, yeah, I am aware of how I feel. I'm aware of, you know, my body. Some people actually aren't aware of, they might be aware of how they feel, but they're not aware of their body. You know, they might be like knocking other people around, or maybe you're sitting in the temple and they'll come sit almost on top of you and you're like, this is
too close to your face.
Yeah, they get too close to your face and talk in your face, or they sit like right on top of you and you're like, this is my personal space bubble. And in different cultures, we have different personal space bubbles, right? And a culture or a country that's more populated, it might be closer. They might be more comfortable being closer. In a country where there's more space, they might need more space, you know? Also, sometimes if people have there's certain types of personalities or where you don't pick up on social cues, you know? Some people who are autistic, they don't realize that they're doing things. You have to point it out and say, actually, you're getting in my face, or you're doing something like that. They don't understand, actually. So we don't want to make fun of people like that. We want to think, okay, they probably aren't aware. They're not self-aware, but it's part of their disorder, basically, you know. So that's part one. That's part one of self-awareness. The next part is being able to recognize how other people see you. So if you're just looking at the first part of the definition, like, I know myself, you know, I'm pretty good with that. But then it's like, then are you aware of how other people see you? That's a big jump. That means your Ahankara has to be almost flat to the ground like a pancake to really see beyond your own nose, beyond your own self, to see how other people see you. And then the third one is knowing how your speech and your behavior affects them. So one is just how they see you, just, you know, walking around or whatever, how they see you. But then how something very specific that you said or you did affects them. So there's 3 layers, and there's probably more if you go into the spiritual realm, right, of self-awareness. I'm just describing this. this is the foundation baseline first. You got to get that part down, you know? Okay, so raise your hand if you think you're self-aware based on this definition. Raise your hand. Who thinks they're self-aware? Don't be shy. If anybody, can you, I can't see on Zoom. Okay, 1, 2, we got 3, 2.5. Okay, anyone on Zoom saying they're self-aware? No? Nobody? Okay, so in this room, I don't know how many people there are, there might be maybe 15 or something, and 2 people think they're self-aware? Maybe 2.5, maybe 3? 3? 3 people, maybe 3 people, okay. Okay. So here's a news flash. Most people are not as aware of, they think, of themselves, right? So most people are not aware of themselves, nor how they come across to other people. So a recent study shows that most people think they are self-aware, but they're really not. So about 10 to 15% of people are actually as self-aware as they think they are. So that's shocking, actually, you know, because we think we know all this stuff, but according to what self-aware is, maybe you've got one part of this down. Some people, maybe they're not that in touch with their feelings, but they're like really good at reading other people. There's that too. It's not only you've got step 1. Some people are like, I know exactly how she feels, and I'm very empathetic to that person, but I'm not so aware of myself, or I'm not aware of how I impact other people. But having all that down, it's only about 10 to 15% of people are actually as self-aware as they think they are. So it's kind of shocking. It's kind of shocking when you see that. So the Ahankara characteristic is that we lack self-awareness, what blocks us, right? A lack of awareness is the failure to be able to see beyond our own thoughts. It means we cannot grasp the impact of our emotions, our actions, and our behaviors. When we are deficient in self-awareness, we act impulsively. We act on our emotions. Our emotions get the better of us, and we make selfish decisions just to pacify our feelings because they're so overwhelming. Our feelings are so overwhelming, we just spontaneously act. Our Ahankara blocks our ability to see ourselves clearly. So this is the impact of lack of self-awareness. We have this victim mentality that he did this to me or she did this to me. We don't take responsibility for our actions. It's only that you did this to me, you did this to me, he did it, you know, but I didn't do anything wrong. We have a high amount of jealousy because we're not aware of ourselves. So we actually think we're better than we are. We think we're also better than whoever it is we're jealous. We think we're better than that person too, and that's why we're jealous. Like, why are they getting the attention? I should be getting it. We act selfishly because we're not aware of ourselves. We're not aware of how we affect other people. We're overly confident. We lack empathy. We waste other people's time with this because then we go and complain to other people or we bitch about other people. You know, we gossip, criticize, and we've got to pull other people in with us to make us feel good. We hurt other people, we blame other people, and we criticize. So this is a lot of impact of lack of self-awareness. So the psychology of self-awareness, why do people lack it, right? Lacking it is one thing, but why? So one is their mind is focused on their thoughts, on their feelings, and on meeting their needs. They don't have enough energy to focus on anyone else or anything else. It's just them. And they're so consumed with their own stuff that they cannot think of others. And at the root of that, their mother was not aware of their own feelings as a child. So now they're trying to pacify themselves because they didn't get what they needed at the very beginning of their life. So it's a deep samskara. So the root cause, if you're going to put it Vedic psychology-wise, it's the combination of manas, ahankara, and samskaras. All 3 of them are related to this lack of self-awareness. It's not just an ahankara issue. And I haven't taught about samskaras yet. Another time I will. But it's definitely ahankara, but I'll explain a little bit here, what I call the 3 blind mice, manas, ahankara, and samskaras. So manas, right, is reactionary. We all experience that in all these manas classes I taught, right? How you just react, like, dislike, right? And so it's uncontrolled. It's like a small baby. There's no deliberation. It's just like, I hate it, I just want to kill it. I just want to kill it. Oh, I love it, I want to possess that thing. That's it. That's manas in a nutshell, right? But then ahankara is our agent of action. So based on your likes and dislikes, then ahankara acts on those emotions, right? So you have this sense of identity of that you're very, whatever you think you are. I wrote some examples here. You think you're a kind person. You think you're a smart person. You think you're so generous. You think you're likable. So if anything touches that ahankara of your identity of who you are, and it touches it in the wrong way, then you have a very strong emotional, negative reaction, right? And so then you have to act. You have to do something, And the thing is that strong reaction is really actually being fueled by a samskara, a very deep wound. The stronger your emotional reaction is, the stronger the more painful and bigger that juicy samskara is that's lining up with it. Okay, so the samskara is some past experience, usually, I'm not going to say all the time, but usually from those young years in your childhood, when a parent neglected you in some way. There's many different ways it could happen, It's not only neglect, I'm just going with, emotional neglect, but there's also a physical abuse and other types of abuse. But I'm just saying emotional neglect happens to most people and we don't realize it. So it's one of those subtle ones. So then we get these faulty perceptions of how people are as an adult. Because of that neglect in childhood, we project it on whoever that person is in our life who's triggering us. We project, if you had a father who was unloving, abusive, critical, then you're going to think that some authority male figure is like that, when they're not like that. They're just being themselves. Or if you had a mother who was unloving, who was not there for you, who was emotionally, distant, then you're going to project that onto some woman, in your adulthood. That woman may not be at all like that, but you can't see it because the samskara is so strong. But it all starts when the ahankara gets triggered. That manas ahankara combo, which I call like the pair of dumb criminals. When those two things get triggered, then the samskara hooks onto that, and it's like a storm. It's like a tornado if you've ever been in a very bad storm, because you can't see anything clearly. And so then you want to try to involve other people and say, listen to me, listen to how this person did this to me, how this person did me wrong, because you can't see that it's actually not actually what's going on. Even if the person did do something wrong, it's not to the extent you're feeling it. The extent you're feeling it is actually these samskaras of your, like your inner child. Because if you think about yourself as a rational adult, which we all are, but then there's a side of you that's emotional, and sometimes it flares up. And that's the part that's the irrational part. It's a very small child who's not seeing things clearly. But it's so strong that if you're not self-aware, it makes you act in ways that later you regret. And you're like, oh, why did that happen? I shouldn't have done that. But if you're not self-aware, you're going to blame the other person. He shouldn't have done that. Or she shouldn't have done that. Or the wind shouldn't have blown that way. You blame anything other than yourself. The other side of that is we don't want to go all the way to the extreme that we beat ourselves up and go into a depression of self-hatred or something. Not that. But we want to take responsibility and go, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have controlled my feelings. I should have tried to see things more clearly and not blame somebody. So that's why I call it the three blind mice. None of these three things have the ability to see itself. None of them. Not the manas. Manas is just like, dislike. Like you go kick a dog, it's going to probably bite you or something, right? Or yelp. It's not going to be like, what should I do? Should I bite them? Should I scream? Should I run away? The dog doesn't think. It reacts like a brainstem reaction, just a quick, bodily reaction. It doesn't contemplate or deliberate. So that's manas, Ahankara is very proud and very just like, if anybody threatens my identity, whatever that is, I'm going to freak out, So those two, that's why manas is so emotional, and ahankara freaks out very quickly if anything even gets close to the identity of who we think we are, right? And then the samskaras fuel it and make it like turbocharged of emotions, all those emotions, But your samskaras, you can't see yourself with those either. So that's why when somebody tells you on the outside, like a good friend who's like a loving friend to you and says, I think you're really triggered now, you should take a break, just cool down. Cool down? Can you believe what that person did to me? Cool down? I'm going to go give them a piece of my mind. I'm not going to cool down. That person's an idiot. They shouldn't have talked to me like that. We don't see it all that stuff going on. But if you're on the outside looking, at your friend or at your partner or something, you can see how crazy it looks, right? When someone else is having a samskara storm, it looks crazy. But for you, when you're experiencing it, it feels so real because you're in your body and all those things are happening to you at the same time. So it's very hard to see it when it's happening to you, and it's very hard to see it's your stuff. It's not the other person who triggered your stuff. They just happen to be there, but the intensity of that emotional reaction is your old stuff. So that's so hard to see. I mean, I can say it till I'm blue in the face, but it's still even when you get in it, it's hard to see it. That's why people are in therapy for years, and you can't really tell them directly because it's too heavy to hear. Then they're like, you're my therapist, you don't support me. So it's a very difficult thing to work with the mind. It's very, very sensitive. So let's do an example. What do you think this guy is thinking? Have you ever been on a plane where somebody reclines back and you're eating your food? Do you see this guy's food is getting thrown all over his lap? What do you think the guy's thinking who reclined back? Jaya?
To me, he looks very happy. He's watching a movie and he's enjoying in his own world. He's happy.
He's like, oh, this is comfortable. That movie's so funny. Oh, let me just get a little more comfortable, right? Exactly. Any other ideas on what he might be thinking? Shailesh?
I think he's not thinking at all.
Okay. He's just enjoying his bodily comforts, right? He's just like, okay. He's not thinking at all. Any other ideas?
He's unaware.
What is he thinking?
He's unaware.
You think he's thinking that there's a thought bubble, he's going, I'm unaware. What is he thinking?
He's thinking.
Yes, that's what the question says. What is this guy thinking? What's he thinking? Gargamuni?
This is the best flight I've ever been on.
I mean, he has like a lounge chair that you'd see in a living room, right? He's like, wow, this is like first class, this is the best. You have a mic? Yep.
I would say that he's thinking I'm superior than they, so I can enjoy my movie, and I just use my right to pull down, and I don't care how they are, because I use my right, and if it's not convenient for them, that's their problem.
Oh, okay, so that's their problem. So basically, so far you're the first person who said that he's actually aware of the guy behind him, and he doesn't care.
Absolutely.
Interesting. He's aware of the guy behind him, and he's like, I don't care. This is my comfort. I mean, he's obviously been on a plane before. He boarded the plane. He probably saw the guy behind him, right? But he's like, I don't care. This is about my comfort. Okay. Yeah, I have the right. I paid for this seat, this extra. Yes, Vilas? No? Huh? Okay, Tanvi?
Maybe you also think, if he has a problem with it, he has to tell us.
Yeah, if this guy's a problem with it, he should tell me. Why is it my job to take care of his feelings? Good, Tanvi? Yeah?
Sorry, a small observation. You see what the chair in which he's sitting and the chair in which the person sitting behind him, so they are completely different.
Yeah.
So he feels like he is in much more comfortable position. Probably it's a more expensive seat.
So he deserves it. He should recline back. He paid for that. Gargamuni?
And he's also older, so he might think, this.
I'm senior.
The other person should also take, take into consideration that, I'm old and he should.
Yeah, that guy's young and he's flexible. He can just move his legs over to the side. Good. Okay. So how about this? What is this guy thinking? The guy behind him, whose food just got spilled all over his lap. Look at his legs. His legs are cramped. What do you think he's thinking?
What a jerk.
What a jerk. Yep. Have you ever been that guy?
Never.
Wow. I think, are you monitoring the Zoom? Because it said that Tabia raised her hand and 2 people have raised their hands.
Yeah, Bhushan.
Okay, Bhushan.
Yeah, I have been that guy. So when I was young, I was traveling from Indian train. After eating something, I drank some water and I put the water out from the window. But the train goes at speed, so the water actually went to the person in the previous seat and it hit him on the face. But thankfully, it was only water. Of course, after that, I had a big laugh about it. And of course, after just that person. But after that, I was careful not to, but I've been there, I've done that.
Okay.
It was funny for me.
Okay, that's good. So what would you be thinking if you're the guy in the red shirt? What would you be thinking, Malika?
Maybe something like, does he not notice that I don't have any space, or what he's doing actually?
Yeah. And Tanvi? Oh, Mohini?
This guy is insensitive.
Totally, right? This guy's an insensitive jerk, right? Yeah. And Tanvi was going to say something. Tanvi, do you still have something?
Yeah, like, who do you think you are? You're
Yeah.
stupid.
Right?
Come on.
Yeah. Would anybody say something to the guy if this happened to you? If you were the guy in the red shirt and your food was like all thrown all over, would anybody say something? What would you say?
He's feeling completely helpless.
Helpless? His face is like, oh! Yeah. Yeah. What would you say, Lādā-lī, to the guy?
Yeah, I would say, dear sir, please look at what's going on. I'm okay, I can see you are enjoying your movie, but I'm having my lunch and look in which state I am right now.
Yeah. It's all over me.
I mean, do you feel, if you were in my shoes, how would you feel?
Yeah.
I have nothing against you enjoying your movie, but please, you are not the only one in the plane.
Okay. What do you think the guy would say? Does anybody want to respond to that? Go ahead, Gargamuni.
I'm not wearing any shoes.
I'm not wearing any shoes. That's what he'd say.
No, I mean, response.
Yeah.
I do not feel how it feels in my shoes, so.
Oh my God. I got it. I was too slow to catch the joke. Okay. Yeah.
I would say, dear sir, I prefer actually not to be in your shoes.
Oh.
Because actually I do prefer to experience this and maybe to change my seat so that you can be all alone on your own. But I truly believe that I have some values that we don't share together. And no, I don't want to be with you. I don't want to be like you.
Why are you laughing, Doji? What's so funny about that? Anybody want to respond? If you were the guy, what would you say to Lādā-lī? She's making a boundary and saying, this is not okay, right? It's not okay. How would you respond if you were the guy? Not if you were you, but if you're that guy.
That guy sitting in the back?
No, Lādā-lī was just talking to the guy sitting here in the front. Now the guy in the front's going to respond to what Lādā-lī said. The guy in the front, what would you say?
I think he will just show his fingers, that's about all.
He'll just give his finger.
Yes.
Susan Sophie says, he's responding, I'm flying first class.
Okay, yeah, I'm flying first class. So go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing, stay in your ugly, not expensive shoes. I will stay in my very comfortable, seat.
Yeah.
It's good for you. But that actually happened to me, and I was so angry that I shook the seat to make sure that the person understands that I need space. And she's troubling me. It's not
and what the person
compassion, empathy at all. Doesn't care. Just
care.
Completely.
Doesn't care. Yeah. Because the mindset the person has to have to do that, right? Probably very low self-awareness. Yes. Okay, Tanvi?
Oh my God, I think in your family you're also this moral person, right? Who's disturbing everyone and annoying everyone with their moral.
So this is what the guy would say back to the guy who just spilled all over, whatever. This is what the old
guy could say.
Okay.
After the response, last just gave.
Yeah. Okay. Mohini.
Maybe he could also say I paid for this seat and I have this possibilities, so I use them and it's not my problem.
Yeah. Not my problem.
Company should airlines should have made it. Think about that.
Exactly. They shouldn't have made the seat like this. I can use the seat however I want. They shouldn't have made the seat like this. Yeah. Go ahead, Gargamuni.
Everyone gets what he deserves.
So does anybody have something very special you could say to this guy that would get him to change? That would get him to change his mind? Something creative. Anything you could say to this guy in the orange chair, reclining back, that could get him to change his attitude. Can you think of anything creative?
You senile.
You think that would get him to change? That'd change in the wrong direction. He'd probably get up and punch you in the face. Any ideas? If you had to
I would just attract his attention to the harm he did to me.
So you think to get him to change would explain the harm he did to you? You'd say, when you put your chair back, I didn't even get to eat my lunch or whatever because it spilled all over me.
Just look what your movement did to me.
Okay. I think somebody already tried that one. If you were that guy, does anybody can read that guy's mind? What do you think that guy would say if you said, "Look what you did to me"? What would he say? Yeah.
I think he will have to show him great respect.
Now we're getting in the right direction. Good. Good Purushottam. Very good. So what would be the great respect that you could say after he's already slammed his chair back, everything's already spilled all over you, so you're probably angry, right? But if you want to try to get him to change, probably the best thing you could do is show him great respect. So what would you say if you're going to go in that direction? Yes, Mohini.
I observe you, and I guess you are an upper class person who was very successful in your life. Can you tell me more about yourself?
Wow, exactly. Let me just pick the spaghetti out of my ear. 1 minute, so I can hear you. Yeah, Laduli.
And before listening to your great, I'm sure, fascinating personal story with all your great success, just let me change my clothes because I feel so embarrassed. I must be smelling and looking which state I am. So I'll go and put my best garments that I can have in the plane.
Very good, right? Very good. How does that feel to say something like that? How would it feel to you to say that? Realize?
I mean, it feels dishonoring.
Yeah.
That, I have to put myself down because the other person did the mistake, and now I should, I should act as if I'm lower, but actually the other person is much lower than me because the other person just proved how insensitive he is.
Yeah.
So for my Ahankara, this would be very difficult.
Right. I think for everybody's, right? I don't think anybody who would like to say that. So why would you do it? Yeah. What would be a good reason to say something like that? Like what Purushottam was saying, just give him some praise, respect. What would be the reason?
Because if
he still has to continue his flight, and if he would go like that, it will not. So he has to specify it, and this is the one way to specify him, show him great respect, honor him, and tell him, and then this way, if he can become specified, then he will give little more room to you.
That's right.
Have a long journey, who knows?
Yeah, and so basically what you're saying, Purushottam, is basically pacify him, respect him, so then he'll give it in turn, right? Once he feels, that he's gotten his Ahankara food and he's feeling better, then he might listen to you. But our Ahankara, when it gets triggered, we do the opposite. We want to attack back. You slap me, I slap you back. But if you can, with a cool head, be like, okay, so this guy's being a total jerk, but he's not going to be less of a jerk if I lecture him, get angry at him, tell him what to do, tell him off. So if I say something very nice to him, pacifying his Ahankara, then he might, I'm not saying he would, he still might be a jerk, but there's a better chance that he might budge in some way if you can like petting a kitty under the neck and starts purring. You have to find his soft spot, and it's definitely not, his soft spot is definitely not attacking him, right? So the reason why you do it is because actually at the end, the final punchline is so you can have an easier flight. So it's not, it's a clever thing to do. So it's not like I just have to, I should tell him he's being a jerk and tell him the point and he's insensitive. He's not going to get that. I mean, he's probably how old, maybe 70? He hasn't gotten it by now. You think you're going to tell him he's a jerk or tell him this one thing and he's going to get it? Right? He's not going to get it. He's not going to get it. So the main point is just be smarter than him. Be smarter than him. Give him the Ahankara food. And then he'll soften down, and then for your own comfort. For your own comfort. Okay? So how many of you have reclined your seat back without checking with the person behind you on any of your flights? Have you guys ever done it? Yeah, it's something to think twice about now when you think about it, even if they're not eating, right? Because it really encroaches on their space, So if you're being sensitive, at the minimum, you just say, is it all right, or do you mind, Instead of I paid for this seat. Ahankara is so good at dividing. It's like, no, this is my property, this is my area. My area. I think I told you guys a story in one of these classes about how I used to make a cut line with my sister. That story when I read about how we got in the fight in the car and my dad kicked me out. So I would make a cut line. I'd be like, this is my side, don't go past it. That's the Ahankara, divides. It always divides. My area, my thing. So here, if you're just thinking about yourself and the comfort of your flight, like this woman, maybe she didn't even ask that guy. She's like, I paid for this first class seat and I'm just going to recline back. I don't care. I need my sleep. I need my beauty sleep. But the sensitive thing to do would be to say to the person, do you mind? And they might, most likely if you ask, they're going to say, no, I don't mind, because they're so touched that you actually asked. Because most people don't, right? So that's just a small example. But if you think about it, I was just asking, why did you not check with the person behind you? If you did it, if you've done it before. Just, maybe you weren't aware of it, but just think about what was your reasoning why you didn't do it. Because Ahankara is very good at giving reasons. We always have a good reason. Mohini, what was your reason?
Not sleeping enough and not having nerves to look around myself.
Sorry, not sleeping enough? So you're tired?
Yes, I'm tired, I'm overdone, and having no energy to
think about the other person. You're just like, I'm tired, I'm reclining black. Yeah. Yeah. Any other reason you could? Was somebody aware? You knew it was probably going to crunch somebody, but you didn't care? Maybe they were eating or something, but you're just like, meh. Anybody ever do that?
Yeah, I did that.
Tanvi. True confessions of.
I noticed that in my mind, and I think like this. Maybe I should better ask, but then what takes the stronger force is this force of oh no, either a reason like Mohini said, okay, I kind of need to sleep now, or also I do it very slowly, then the person can
They can adjust. You're like,
the person, I did the example before, the person behind me can tell me if they don't like it.
Yeah.
Actually,
what?
I have this seat, and the seat has the function to go back. Can go backwards, but I noticed how it is interesting. I also have that in other situations, that I do notice that it's happening right now, that it's actually not right to do it like this. If I would be morally, or if I would be nice, I would not do it. But I overgo that, because of my own need. And then either I find already some reason, or I just think this is what I need right now.
Yeah, that's Ahankara is very, very good at rationalizing. Thank you, Tanvi. Ahankara is so good at rationalizing. We always have a very good reason for what we do. And that's why I'm picking such a simple thing. We've all been on a flight, and we've all probably done something like that. Vilas?
My reason would be that the person in front of me is doing the same.
Oh, they're already crunching me out, so we might as well just do the domino effect.
So I need to,
Good one. Shailesh?
My reasoning would be that, at a certain point on the plane, the lights are off, so you're supposed to kind of sleep, so it's understood that you're allowed to recline without thinking of the other person. Actually, this was something similar happened to me when I was coming to India this time. I reclined, but after 20 minutes, I just sensed that, someone is, knocking on my seat. And I realized that the guy who was sitting behind, he was a little elderly person, so he was not able to kind of move properly. And so I realized that unless I move my seat back, he was not able to go to the bed.
So you moved your seat back?
Yeah.
Good choice. Okay. So let's get into some signs that a person lacks self-awareness. Have you ever had this? I've had that before many times. The kid is kicking the seat, and the parents are like, oh my God, and the parents don't do anything. I'm like, please, and the parent is right next to them, and they're just kicking and throwing and, Okay. So the first sign is they always have to be the center of attention. People lacking in self-awareness they often struggle to focus on others, to let the focus be on others. And they want it to be on them. They want center stage, right? They might feel as though they're worthless if all the eyes aren't constantly on them. So they're needing that constant attention so they can feel actually like they're special and important, or like they even exist. Those seeking attention may frequently speak and rarely listen. They always have to say something or do something to get attention. Some examples, they can talk over others to ensure they're heard. They ask questions in every single class. They just to get the attention of the teacher or demand that others spend time to help pacify their emotional needs. So there's many ways people do it. There's many ways to be the center of attention. Some are more tricky than others. And most often the people aren't aware that they're doing it. You know, that's why if you point it out, the Ahankara blocks you from seeing that you're doing it. So if someone says you're doing that thing, I'm not doing that. No, I generally do. They'll say something that they don't. It's very shocking if somebody points it out to you, even if everybody else in the room sees it. But if you tell that person, it's like the Ahankara blocks you from seeing it. So that's why these things it's easier to see in other people. And the idea is that maybe there's 11 here, maybe one of them you might be like, maybe I do that. And you could actually, as a homework, check with somebody who's close, who you feel really safe with, who you're in a very loving, safe relation with, and just say, I think I might do this. Do you think I might do that? And see if they're willing to tell you. Okay, so number 2, they believe they're always right. When someone lacks self-awareness, they have a hard time recognizing the limits of their abilities or their knowledge, as well as their weaknesses. So if someone disagrees with them, their response might be to double down on their own statements, instead of listening and acknowledging that someone else might know better than them, especially if it's a professional. They'll still fight with a professional about it. They will get a new therapist who will tell them what they want to hear, and they will contact their old therapist telling them that they're wrong. So this happens a lot in the world of therapy. The client, you'll tell the client something, then they'll say, "No, you're wrong. You don't see it. You don't understand." Then they get another therapist, and then they'll come back and tell you, "My therapist said that." And so the point is actually not who's right or who's wrong. It's that the person heals. So the therapist is not trying to be right. The therapist is just trying to help, but they have to. If they're not self-aware, they want to prove a point to that therapist. They want to prove, I'm right, and see, this therapist told me that I'm. So that's this thing of lacking self-awareness. Instead of saying, okay, that therapist, maybe they didn't get it, or maybe they didn't see it in the right way. Whatever, I'm on to my new therapist now. Who cares if my other therapist saw it or not? They frequently make negative or critical comments. People who are lacking in self-awareness usually lack a filter. So they're going to say the first thought that pops in their heads, It's like just passing gas, They just do it. They don't have a filter. They don't stop and say, oh, this is socially inappropriate. This might hurt somebody, to say that. They don't think that. It just comes out because they're not aware. They're not aware of how their comments or how their behavior affects somebody else. So oftentimes the comments are very harsh and they're very critical of others. And they might even be perceived, when the people who do this, as a bully to those people around them, because they'll be laughing when they say it, but it's actually very painful to the person, and maybe the person's not brave enough to tell them that hurt my feelings when you said that, so they don't get the feedback. And even if they do, oftentimes they don't change, because usually when they're doing it, it's making them feel better, because they're feeling down. So then they say something like that, like a punch like that, and then the person feels bad, and so that makes them feel better, makes them feel stronger. So without an understanding of how others view them, these people may not realize that their comments are hurtful. And often this type of person may defend themselves. I don't know if you've ever had somebody say this to you, or if you've ever said it. I was just being honest. What's your problem? It's like, where did you ever get the idea that being honest and saying something mean is good? Being honest is like, I didn't steal the $100. I didn't steal the $100. But being honest about saying something hurtful to somebody and using that as your rationale is not a good one. But Ahankara will always find a reason for their behavior. Okay, so number 4 is they always have to be in control. Someone who lacks self-awareness tends to believe that whatever needs to be done, they are the best person to do it. And they believe that they know the only right way to do it as well. They're the only one who can lead people, they're the only one who can train people, they're the only one. And they're always the victim. This is the 5th thing. They're always the victim of some bad person who did something wrong to them, right? So they create drama where there is none. It's a very common sign of somebody who lacks self-awareness. So when they have empathy for others, such as not understanding what can be offensive to others, they tend to stir up problems. I meant to say when they don't have empathy. When they don't have empathy for others, right? So they don't understand what could be offensive to others, what would hurt other people. So they stir up problems. And they also have the tendency to cause drama, but they don't realize that they are the actual cause of it. They will blame everyone around them, including their therapist. That's the person who's trying to help them, and they're going to say, it's your fault. You created this thing, you know? And it's like, okay, I'm trying to help you. So usually if you come close to somebody who has lack of self-awareness, that's very dangerous position to be in. Because they'll pull you in, and then they blame you. And they don't see clearly what your role is and how you're actually trying to help them. And it may not be a therapist. It may be that you're their mother, or you're their father, or you're some person in their life who's trying to genuinely help. You only have the best intentions for this person. And somehow they've twisted the story, so now you're the one at fault, because they can't see that they have any responsibility for any part of this. So they're just the victim. They see themselves as a victim, and all this drama is swirling around them, but they're the innocent one who didn't do anything. They act without thinking of the consequences, and later they regret it. So when someone isn't very self-aware, they don't have a clear sense of their identity, right? So that means that they don't know what their ultimate purpose is in life is, or what their goals are. They may know it intellectually, especially if you're here and you're on the path of Bhakti Yoga and Babaji's your teacher or your guru. He's very clear with us what our goals are and what they should be, right? But that doesn't mean you're actually acting on them. You might know intellectually, you might be able to repeat it, but your behavior may not be matching that. It doesn't translate, right? So it causes people to react very, very strongly on their emotions, and they'll just run away from their pain and drag others along with them, whoever will listen. So they go through life without a clear sense of who they are and what they want, and they don't have a successful career path. They can't really hold down a steady job. It's always this boss's problem or that other person's problem, so they have to quit and move on. So their behavior is mostly about smashing those people who threaten their Ahankara. That's it. They cannot stick to one thing and stay steady with that. So people who have this kind of impulsiveness can seem like they are like flitting about from one thing to another randomly. They don't have a sense of direction, you know? And it's because they're getting triggered by this or they're getting triggered by that, and this person's bad and this person's after me and this person's trying to hurt me, you know? And so it's very hard for them to stay the course and see, okay, that person's not my father, that person's not my mother, or whoever it was that was abusive to me. That person is just doing their thing. They have their issues. They have their samskaras. I'm fine because I'm focused on my goal, and I'm going to stick in this position, and I'm going to move up. I'm going to move up in this position. I'm going to excel in something in my life. So they also find it difficult to empathize with others, and thus they can cause problems in relationships. So when someone is lacking in self-awareness, they're also lacking in empathy. Those two things go together. Because if you can't be aware of your feelings, how can you be aware of somebody else's feelings? You have to know yours first, right? So they are unable to put themselves in someone else's shoes and see things from the other's point of view, like the guy in the plane, right? So this inability to empathize makes them come across as insensitive and causes problems in relationships. An inability to empathize flows directly from an inability to identify and understand our own feelings. Right? So when someone has a hard time recognizing their own feelings, it can be just as difficult to recognize anybody else's. So that's the point that I made, a few times now. But so if you see this cat, he's about to knock over the flowers. But he's probably going to have a reason why that it wasn't his fault that the flowers got knocked over. He's going to have some rationale because he can't see that he's the one who did that, and he won't feel bad for his owners that he did that. He'll have some reason why. So they're not able to identify how others perceive them. So if someone lacks self-awareness, they also tend to lack any sense of what they're really good at and what they're really bad at. They aren't able to accurately reflect upon the impact of the things that they do, so they don't understand how their actions may have affected an outcome. So here's an example. Maybe they have a job interview, right? And they're going to come back and be like, oh my God, my job interview went so well. I did amazing. I think I've nailed this. I'm going to get the job, But it turns out that because they don't have a good sense on how they affect other people, how other people perceive them, the person who interviewed them was not impressed at all. They were like, they're not going to get the job, And so then when the person doesn't get the job, they're like devastated. I can't believe I didn't get this job, But they aren't able to see how they missed the mark, how they, because they're going to come back and tell some story that they did amazing. So they have trouble taking criticism for others. So now you see this cat, it's going to knock over that coffee, right? So because people with low self-awareness typically don't understand how they come across to others, they can get confused or even upset when someone tries to tell them what they're doing wrong. because they don't think they're doing anything wrong, you know? And in the face of criticism, what they might do is make some excuse, some rationalization, right? They're going to blame somebody else. They're going to blame something else. It doesn't have to be another person. It could literally be like the table, the room, the wind, the weather, the astrology, you know, the timing was wrong. It could be anything other than them, anything at all other than them, you know? So that helps them, you know, kind of just be in denial, basically, of anything that they did. You know, they can remain being perfect. So they tend to have a hard time accepting and learning from criticism, even when it's constructive. You know, you can have constructive criticism, not just somebody lashing out at you, but you could say, you know, when you did this, it made me feel like this, like we've practiced, right? Even that would be very hard for them to hear. When someone has low self-awareness, they often also have difficulty trusting others. So that's what I was saying before. They won't be able to see that criticism is coming, even if it's from someone who has their best interest, who has nothing to gain from telling them this thing, you know, still they can't see it. They will kind of go into attack mode to prove and get defensive, go into attack mode to prove that they're not wrong and this other person is wrong. So they also don't accept responsibility for their actions, right? So someone who's lacking in self-awareness, nothing is ever their fault. I don't know if you know anybody like that. It's very frustrating to have a conversation with somebody like that, right? Because like the guy when we were practicing, he was reclining his chair back. He would probably never actually admit that I'm being a jerk. I shouldn't have done that. Oh my God, I spilled your lunch by doing. He would take no responsibility for any of that. So it's so frustrating because no matter what you try, it's like he's not going to change. He'd just say something rude back and get more defensive, right? So it's very hard to make a really nice relationship with somebody like that, an intimate, emotionally intimate relationship. So they frequently shift the blame to someone else, or they find some external reason why they did whatever they did. They're unwilling and unable to see how they might have affected something. And it doesn't matter how many months or years they're in therapy, they still don't get it. And that doesn't mean that they shouldn't come to therapy. Therapy is good for anybody. You know, my goal as a therapist is actually not for you to get it. My goal is for you to get some relief, to feel somewhat better. So it doesn't actually matter. I'm not like, you have to get it, you have to get it. It's more like, what are you coming for? You're coming to a therapist because you're troubled by some things. You're trying to get a relief, you're trying to feel better. So if the relief for you is you get an insight, if the relief for you is you had that safe person to just vent to, if the relief for you is, it doesn't matter to me. But therapists, when they have a goal that you have to get it, which is oftentimes people are coming because someone wants them to come to therapy. Their partner or somebody's like, you need to go get help, you know. But if you have that goal for them, then it's going to be very frustrating.
What does it mean, affected? And affected, I understand, but affected?
How they might have, they're unwilling how they might have affected something. So it should be effected?
No, affected.
What does that mean?
How they might have hurt somebody, or I always get, I thought you were saying affected versus effected. I always get A and E wrong. But anyway, yeah, how they might have, whatever their behavior was, their action was, or their words, how it might have upset somebody, or hurt somebody, or scared somebody, or they're not aware of that. They can't see how it's their behavior. They just think that person is acting, you know, overly sensitive or something like that. I don't know what their problem is. So someone with low self-awareness, they might claim that they were late because of the traffic. The traffic was bad, that's why I'm late. Even though they could have actually been on time if they got up an hour earlier and if they planned, right? But they fail to see that that's the reason why they're late. The reason why they're late is because of them, you know? Now, I'm not going to say every time. Obviously, sometimes there could be like really heavy traffic. But if it's somebody who's chronically late, obviously you know that you're going to be late. And so if you want to get there on time, you're going to have to leave earlier. But that person will never say that. What they say is, oh my God, the traffic was so bad. But you're like, the traffic's been so bad for the past 3 months. Like, wouldn't you adjust? Wouldn't you adjust yourself? So that's a lack of self-awareness. You know, the real reason they're late is they're not leaving enough time to reach their destination. So I'm not picking on a person who one time is late, but if it's a chronic thing, then it's showing that they're not aware. And they're blaming the traffic instead of saying, oh, I should change myself. Okay, last but not least, they find it hard to admit when they don't know something. So understanding the limits of one's own knowledge is a key part of self-awareness, right? Knowing that you don't know everything. So when someone is lacking in self-awareness, they're also lacking in the intellectual humility. They're not willing to say, I don't know. They prefer to make something up or argue or just ignore the issue entirely rather than accept the knowledge or understanding from someone else. This sign of low self-awareness is also related to the need to be right all the time. So having intellectual knowledge, experience, or power also gets in the way of self-awareness. In other words, sometimes if you're new to something and you really don't know, that could actually be refreshing. If you're a teacher and you have somebody who doesn't know anything, then you can be like, okay, let me teach you. But you have somebody who already knows the terms and they can use the term and talk about it, but they actually haven't changed themselves. That's harder to deal with somebody like that because they're too confident. They're too proud, Yes, Gargo?
Is this the right cat for this light?
Huh?
Is this the right cat for this light?
Why?
That's my question.
So why do you think it's the wrong cat?
I cannot connect it, the message to the message of this light.
Okay. Can anybody? This cat thinks he knows about love, but he doesn't.
Professes love.
Okay, so words to the wise. How to deal with people who lack self-awareness. Number one, do not. That's okay. We have a little bit of time. Thank you for all your help, everybody. Okay, number one, don't try to educate somebody who does not have self-awareness. You're only going to get yourself in.
To instruct.
Okay.
Everyone wants to be guru.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be the guru. So don't try to help them see that they're not aware of themselves. They will not get it and they'll only become defensive. Don't try to tell them the truth, even if you're their friend, if you're their boss, if you're their colleague, their well-wisher, their partner, their relative, their therapist. It doesn't matter. They don't want to hear it. Even if they ask you, you probably should tell them like maybe 2% or maybe 5% of it and see how they take it, Really. And if they can't, if they start getting defensive, then just say, okay, you're right, I'm wrong, because it doesn't, what's the point of hammering somebody with something like that, and they don't want to hear it, You'll just make an enemy. So if you try to tell them the truth about themselves, they're going to deny it. They will end up hating you, spreading rumors about you, and becoming your enemy because they don't see it. It'd be like if I tell somebody, like, you're a purple unicorn. I'm a purple unicorn? What? I'm a purple unicorn? Seriously? You're crazy. Like, that is so, that's how it feels when somebody tells you something if you don't have any self-awareness. If you don't have a practice of seeing yourself, of taking the feedback from other people, of introspecting and trying to improve yourself, it's going to feel very out of left field if somebody tells you the real truth about how they see you. So that's why I'm saying it's what you have to think. Why do you want to tell the person that thing? Why would you want to tell them the basically bitter truth about themselves that they're not seeing? What is the point of that for you? And if you really think about it, it's actually for your own self. So you can get a relief from probably the obnoxious part of the personality that you don't like, basically. It's not really for them. It's for you. That's a bitter truth. But if you really look at it and draw out the thing, you're not Mother Teresa just trying to be so nice because they're suffering. It's not like that. It's your suffering in the relation with them. If they would just stop that behavior, then you can get a relief and it can be smooth. Okay. So do not confront. Calling them out will just let them play the victim card again. It would feel so tempting and emotionally rewarding as it might be to call out a toxic person for their nonsense, but it's not a good strategy. I've had so many therapy sessions with people and I've told them, don't do that, to your husband or your wife or your boss or whoever that person is in your life who's giving you trouble. If you just blast them, it's not going to do you it's only going to cause basically more karma for you to have to deal with them being upset with you. So people like this often thrive on conflict, and provoking them will only make you all the more interesting to them. You want to go under the radar with somebody like that. You don't want to blast them because they will bite onto you like a pit bull and they will never leave you. They'll just latch onto you and they'll keep trying to debate it with you and keep trying to prove to you, because they can't see it. They'll come 5 years later, I'm not a purple unicorn. It's like, okay, you're not a purple unicorn, So it's purple unicorn. A unicorn is like a horse with a horn. It's a make-believe thing, So that's how it feels when somebody tells you something that you cannot see about yourself, And we all have those things we can't see about ourselves that everyone else, literally everybody else might not be able to see, but we can't, And you've had it when somebody tells you something. You've experienced that probably, and it doesn't feel good, So you have to have the empathy for that piece too of not telling somebody something like that. And also, what's the point? Because you just want to keep getting in a debate with them and having to prove it to them. like the guy in his seat, convincing him of why to put his seat up and how he's a jerk, it's not going to get through his head, you know? So if you want peace of mind, my question is, do you want peace of mind? And if it's true, you would like to actually focus on your seva, you'd like to focus on other things that are important to you in your life, then feed the ahankara its food. It doesn't cost anything. Just give it the praise that it's looking for. Agree with the person. Agree with whatever they're saying. You see how happy she is? She got a chocolate-covered strawberry. That's it. Just give her the food. Pacify their ahankara. Go along with their self-image of being great, of being wonderful, of being humble, of being smart, however it is that they see themselves, of being dedicated, devoted, hardworking. They're an innocent victim. It doesn't matter. If you are very clear with your goal, what are you trying to do in your life? And if you're clear and you're here and the point is there, just stick on your point. Don't let all the other people around you bother your ahankara to the point that you've diverted off. You're in the weeds now 5 miles away from the road to the main point. That's what happens, you know. Our ahankara gets so triggered, and then our manas, and then the samskaras, and we're off in left field, you know. So we have to be very clear on what we're trying to do in this life. And then if you want peace of mind, just whoever it is that's on the side biting at you, just give them their ahankara food. What do you gain out of convincing somebody, you know, that they're something, how you see them? Who cares? That's actually one of our samskaras too. If you're trying to convince somebody to see something the way you see it, that's our samskar. That is a samskar from us, of trying to convince mom or dad to see us, basically. Okay? Got it? Get it? Got it? Good. Yes? You need a mic? Okay. We're going to do a quick practice and then we're done.
I was wondering, if we see all the descriptions that you're mentioning in our adult child, then most likely we are the cause of it ourselves, because, you know, we're the parents, I'm the mother, so I'm most likely the cause of such behavior to manifest. And then you do say not, you know, to do feed the ahankara and not to try to educate them, which is quite difficult when you're in a parental role. So how would you then? You cannot. That's not an ashram situation where you just try to avoid somebody or feed their ahankara and be done with it.
Yeah, when it's a parent, it's a different question. Yeah, that's not a quick answer either. So I'm just talking about in the ashram, basically, or in adult relations where it's like a boss or something, you just feed the ahankara. There's no point. But when you're a parent, that's a good question. It's a different thing you have to do. And it's more specific. I would have to get to know more about you and the situation with your child. But it's a good question. It is different. You don't just want to feed the ahankara of your child. So that's a good point. What I'm saying is not applicable to everyone in every situation, just in general. So let's practice. What would you say to this cat who is not self-aware? Now, first of all, can you tell why the cat is not self-aware? Does anybody know what the cat's doing? He's pooping. This is the cat's bathroom. It's called a litter box if you've never had a cat in the West. So if you have an indoor cat, they go to the bathroom in something called a litter box. So this cat is pooping in the litter box, and you can see the stinky smell coming off the side. Okay? So now, this cat is not self-aware, and you want to have peace in your life. What would you say to the cat? Imagine he could talk and understand, and you live with him. What would you say? Who has the mic? Did you say it? Who said that? Go ahead, Gargamuni. Huh? So you have to use the mic so everybody can hear. Everybody can benefit from your wise words.
Good job.
You'd say good job. Okay.
The cat will respond, excuse my body.
Okay, what would you say to the cat who is not self-aware?
I would say, let's go out for a little walk. You will come replace and I'll be fine.
Okay. How would you feel if you're the cat? How would you feel if you're the cat? Remember, the cat thinks he's right. The cat thinks he's right.
When cat will go out in the fresh environment, she will feel into the presence. She will, not feel that. She's constrained in pooping there in the one place.
Okay. So is this your idea, or is this something you learned in the class today?
So this is very much. I mean, I'm also learning class, but this is also my idea.
So, can you try to apply something you learned in the class instead of just your idea?
In a class, what I learned today, basically, I need to kind of summarize is that the self-awareness or awareness comes through...
No, not what you learned. Apply what you learned. I don't want to hear it in your head. Apply it. What would you say to this cat who's not self-aware? Show us that you learned something. What would you say to the cat who's not self-aware?
You are such a nice cat.
Good.
And just praise the cat.
You got it, Purushottam. Good job. What else would you say? So you're such a nice cat. Praise the cat. Good job.
Good boy.
Good boy. Vladili, you got a mic?
You made such a nice poo in your literary box, and I'm going to cover you and to make some more, to put some more sand on you. So that,
Very good. You made such a nice poo. Okay. Anyone else? Jana, you got an idea?
You're so clean. Oh, how cute you are.
Yes.
You're thinking of me and you're pooping in little box. I love you. This is so great.
You see that Ahankara food? It's just getting better and better. How about this one? Wow, your poop smells like a bed of fresh roses. Wow, your poop smells like a bed of fresh roses. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in a room with a cat pooping, but it smells horrible. Horrible. But see, the cat doesn't realize it. So you'd be like, oh my God, it smells so good, like a bed of fresh roses. And the cat's like, yeah. Then you're not going to have any fight, no debates, nothing. Because the Ahankara has like gotten its food. And then you can go on peacefully with your day. Okay? What would you say to this cat who's not self-aware? He's knocking the coffee down. And remember, he doesn't think it's his fault. What would you say, Narota?
Well done. You can even throw the pot with the flour as well.
Well done, right? Keep going. It's so cool or something. Vilas?
I would say something like, I'm sorry, it's my fault, I left the cup there. Or this cup is, so unstable, it falls all the time. Something like that.
Exactly, right? Taking responsibility like it's your fault, even though it's the cat's. Dauji?
Coffee is really bad for me, thank you.
Thank you for being so thoughtful that you knocked it over. I shouldn't be drinking it anyway. Good. Any other ideas to give him the Ahankara food? Good job, you guys. I feel so badly for you that this stupid person left their cup of coffee on the table and now they're blaming you for knocking it over? If they didn't want it to be knocked over, they shouldn't have put it there in the first place. You didn't do anything wrong. Ahankara food. Okay, that's the end. Very good job, you guys. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, so we survived. Yes, Gargamuni.
It feels like not taking seriously. I like not taking that person seriously, or serious. I say serious.
That means you're absorbed in your Ahankara. Yeah, if you're absorbed in their Ahankara, you're taking them very seriously. That's how they see themselves, and they don't want to be changed by you.
But when you are in such a relationship with such a person, and this just never gonna feel real, right?
It's not real because
you can never open up to that person. You can never. It's always like on a theater, level of just giving them whatever they want, and they not being aware what you need.
Well, what's the alternative? We'd like to open to somebody like this? How do you think it would go with the man who's putting his chair in your face and not aware and doesn't care how he makes you feel? You'd want to open to somebody like that?
Yeah. I mean, either I would walk away from such a situation, or I would try to, at least nudge them, like the cat that pooped in, I don't know. I thought about I could tell her a story of a brave cat that always takes poops out in the woods, or something like feeding their Ahankara to do that I want them to do. Something like that.
Good luck with that. I wish you the best of luck. Don't become a therapist. Yes, Shailesh.
What Gargamuni says makes sense, but the only thing is that being a married person, I can say that if you apply some of these techniques, the other person becomes, their heart becomes softer, and then you can actually establish that communication. And
maybe.
No, I'm saying that these things work. I mean,
in population of you and your wife, maybe population of 2.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
According to your experience.
So once you start applying them, then you're able actually to really get into each other's shoes, because the person becomes softer once he sees or she sees that you're actually acknowledging them.
Yeah, that's not true for everybody. So I think that it's important to realize the points I'm making and not try to actually go against the points. I'm trying to teach something that's very common in my 15 years of experience of working with people's minds. And so far I'm hearing people try to say something to go against it because your Ahankara wants to say, no, but it's like this. I have this one success story. Why can't I do it like this? But actually what I'm saying is, in general, pretty true. So you should try to understand that and get that and understand that you'll have a lot easier life if you don't try to convince people to try to change. If you just accept people as they are and don't try to get them to change. It's true, yes, you can be nice to them and they may change, but the goal is not to get them to soften and change. That's only a selfish thing. That's just so they can then see you. Why do they need to see you if you see yourself? So the point is that, if you have a goal, and your goal should not be to change somebody else. If you have a goal, which is we're all here, at least in this room, on the path of Bhakti Yoga. So if our goal is something different, then it's not about if they soften and change or not. It's just giving them the Ahankara food and stay fixed on your goal. And it's not diverting off, no, but I can do this and I can do that. Fine, but how is that helping you with your bhakti? So what I'm trying to tell you is just give the food in a compassionate way. They change or not, great, but you're not noticing it even. You're not getting some, success out of that. It's just that you want everybody to be pacified and you don't want to trigger people so you can get your seva done in peace. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay?
We've decided to award Babaji the Nobel Prize for patience and tolerance.
Yeah, he's the master of this, He knows how to work with Ahankaras. And you see that how he does it. He's a genius at it. But he's also very focused on his goal, and he's fixed, and he doesn't want to trigger anybody. He's trying not to do that. He's trying to just get his seva done. Okay? Okay. Hari Radhe. Radhe Radhe.